Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to Jay's One Key Event, 3rd edition, also known as JOKE3. We're back once again with more round of 16 action. Took a bit of a break between the last couple of matches, and the one before you today, we've got Brazil taking on D3kuu in a winner's bracket showdown to see who keeps their winner's bracket run alive and who is going to get bumped down to that loser's bracket. As always, my name is Sparky, and I'm going to be doing a bit of a solo job here in the commentary booth today as we are now underway with this match. Skipped the warm-ups and skipped most of the first map as we got everything set up for you guys here today. And as you guys might notice, the players are swapped around. We'll get that fixed up for you guys right after this map. And right now we have D3kuu with a very strong 99.97 on Rice 1 at the moment. Going into the last third of the chart, Brazil holding on to the FC as well, but the accuracy being the main difference between the two players at the moment. I mean, honestly, there's really not much Brazil can do at this point. The fact that D3kuu is basically near flawless at the moment. There's a couple of gallops here, a couple of runs as well at the end that could potentially be room for a mess up, but as of right now, that UR bar is steady dead center from D3kuu at the moment. And as the chart comes to an end, there are no more tricks left up this map sleeve, just a couple of outro notes to play through. And just based on accuracy alone, D3kuu picks up the first point, 999,000 11/300s. That is ridiculous to start things off. And right now the players being asked to swap positions. Get everything straightened out here. Very nice. So now everything should be in order. A quick little recap of the bans. D3kuu did win the roll 71-22. Brazil banning out Rice 3. D3kuu taking out Hybrid 1. And I imagine we're going to see a Rice versus LN dichotomy begin to develop. Brazil maybe wanting to lean on their LN hybrid abilities to not have to go up against the ratio of D3kuu. And with those bans, it does mean that the SV chart is left up on the table. A rarity in this particular tournament because you don't have protects. So at the moment, just waiting for Brazil's first pick here. And they're going to opt for LN1. They think it's Aeronautica, but it's actually Treat. Because Aeronautica is banned. Maybe they thought that that was LN1. And I wonder if the realization is going to set in. So it looks like they just got the title wrong, but they did intend to pick LN1. And the players are ready. We're going to get into the second map of this best of 9. First player to 5 points will see themselves through to winners quarterfinals. Pretty reasonable starts for both players. Holding on to the FCs, but it's going to come down to release accuracy on this particular chart, and I imagine Brazil is going to be a lot more comfortable doing LN releases compared to D3kuu. You can already see it here, 97 to 99% in terms of accuracy. Surmountable if Brazil does find a miss. So D3kuu not out of this just yet, but gonna need to claw themselves out of the hole before too long. We're already getting into the build-up into the next drop. This might be the best section for D3kuu coming up because you get these LN streams, but they're basically 1/4. You can kind of get away with sacrificing some accuracy on the longer LNs to maintain the combo, and both players crossing that 400 combo cap. There are some tricky patterns coming up, some 3-note gallops in between these 1/4s. Can they handle the transitions without breaking? Because I think that's going to be the real determinant for the rest of this chart. A quarter left to go here. There's the first gallop, and D3kuu finds the miss. That is going to solidify the win for Brazil, who does not trade it back, picks up the doublet as well. And as we make our way into the outro, a good response from Brazil to pick LN2 here. And based on these two players' skill sets, we could be on a crash course for that tiebreaker before too long. And we are now tied 1-1. Some nervy 100s from Brazil, but still able to hold on to the combo. And D3kuu's going to go for the stream pick, which is going to be Angel Dust. One of the harder maps in this pool, if for nothing else, the stamina element required to make it through this relatively unscathed. Because you are handling 170 BPM, 1/4 streams for extended durations. If you're not the most comfortable with alternating, this could be a very difficult map to get through, but I imagine for D3kuu this is basically a bit of a warm-up for them, and seeing if Brazil can maintain pace to capitalize on any potential mistakes is going to be the name of the game for this map. That being said, I did mention that these are 1/4 streams. There are some 1/6 bursts in some of those streams that can throw you off. It switches you into your offhand on the release. So for right now, not really, I think either player threw too much bother. Brazil picking up a couple of 200s on that introduction as it got settled in. And you can see that massive clump of 1/6 notes inside of those 1/4s. Both players handling them relatively well at the moment. Like I said, it's really just going to be up to Brazil to maintain pace as we transition into the next stream. Lead growing to about 11,000 points just based off the accuracy alone, a full percent separating both players at the moment. And transitioning out of the streams into these doublets, not the easiest thing to do, but both players managed to do it. As we continue on into the back half of the chart, and D3kuu finds a miss on one of the only LNs in this chart. An unfortunate slider break. This is the opening that Brazil needed to claw this lead back, but they find a couple of 200s. They don't drop on the transition back into the streams. Can they hold on here? It is 2,000 points to their name. D3kuu is probably not going to be able to make it back up over that 400 combo cap, so it is free time for Brazil. And it was a pretty nasty accuracy drop from D3kuu as well on the transition out of that LN. It's only about 0.2% in their favor, but because of the fact that Brazil has all this free time still holding on to the FC, and 8th of the chart still left to go, do they have the stamina to make it through the rest of this chart? A lot of 300s coming out. They're starting to slow down their pace. A lot of 200s coming out as well. They transition on that last 1/6. doesn't catch out either player, and now Deku is up over that 400 combo cap. This is their opportunity to strike back. They have climbed up in terms of accuracy. It's going to come down to the wire, and Deku finds a miss at the end, and Brasil takes the first break point in this match to make it 2-0. Oh my goodness, what a performance from Brasil. Needing to FC that basically on command, losing the accuracy battle, but winning in the combo game. Deku nearly pulled it out. If they didn't find the miss at the end, that could have come down to tens of points between both of these players. But as it stands, it is Brasil up 2-1 at the moment. As we go for the SV chart, it is going to be anti-hero. And this might be a tale of two levels of practice, depending on who actually looked at this chart and who didn't, because it is very easy to just ban this out and not practice it. Or assume that your opponent is going to ban it out and you don't have to work on it. But judging by the fact that neither of them actually touched it, they might actually have looked at this. It'll be very interesting to see who put in the effort to learn this chart. Not the hardest in the world, but some of the gimmicks can catch you off guard on a sight read. Oh, and the early releases catching both players out. These are some very tricky releases. They end on an upbeat to start things off. And you can see a lot of 200s raining down from both players. The majority of the song is just 1/4 rice notes, so that could play into Deku's hands. It's just a matter of handling the LN sections and the transitions in these gallops, and both of them missing at the same time. Windows of opportunity being missed by both players as they begin to make their opening mistakes, basically. And Deku, the beneficiary of it, to the tune of about 37,000 points. Now, this lead can evaporate in an instant if they have a bad section. There is a very nasty slowdown where you need to essentially ghost tap your way through it to make it through relatively unscathed. And here goes the next transition. Basically teleports throughout this entire section. Brasil finds the first miss, get it traded back by Deku, but it is 6% in terms of an accuracy discrepancy between both players. And here comes the ghost tapping. If you just hold on to 1-2 ghost taps throughout this entire section, you should make it through relatively cleanly, but it looks like both players are trying to read their way through it and finding misses left and right, at least in terms of Brasil's side, and it is growing the lead for Deku at the moment. 96,000 points to their favor. Still holding on to the S rank for the moment. Now, this is the same rhythm we've been seeing throughout this section. It's just the fact that teleports are getting a lot more aggressive. It's going to transition into a full 1/4 stream. Just hold on to it. Trust yourself. Trust your reading to make it through. And downbeat, you get back into the LN gimmick. It's just the fact that the teleports just get so much more aggressive, but it's just a reprise of the earlier sections. And as we continue on, last sliver of chart left to go. This is a bit of a mispick coming out from Brasil to answer back, picking up that break point. Unfortunately going to be giving it right back over to Deku, convincingly making it 2-2 now. And Deku gonna waste no time going for Rice 2 here. Understandably, this has been their bread and butter. They looked a lot more comfortable on the Rice sections of Anti-Hero there. shortest map in the pool as well. No room for mistakes on this particular chart. Bit of a shaky start from Brazil there on those opening bursts. Gonna be able to quickly climb back up into the S rank range, but with the level of consistency D3kuu has shown and that clean introduction, holding on to this 99.9, the couple of LNs in this chart shouldn't give him too much of an issue. I think we can call the one on Angel Dust a bit of an oopsie, a bit of a mulligan for them as they look very comfortable on this chart so far. Both FCs still left on the board, but we're already in the back half of the chart. And as we make our way into the last third here, D3kuu climbing in terms of accuracy, 99.9 to the flat 99 of Brazil. It's going to take a miss to swing this to Brazil's side. Not really much they can do at this point. But they are climbing in terms of accuracy. 99.2 makes it a little bit easier to catch your opponent, but with the chart quickly coming to an end, gonna be a 996 from D3kuu, a valiant effort from Brazil, 975. But the ratio just not there, 33 300s. And V1SS as well. As I imagine, Brazil is going to want to opt to take either the hybrid chart or the last LN. I imagine LN2 might be the play here, just because of how technical that chart can get. At least on the LN side, the releases are very demanding, as opposed to something like Hybrid 3. Hybrid 2 might be an outside shot. That could be reserved for the final pick for Brazil. But needless to say, I think the avenues of approach for Brazil are a little bit easier. But actually, no. As I say that, D3kuu does still have reverse clock. Oh, and it's going to be Hybrid 2, so very good choice as well. Not the one I would have expected, but it might be the least abrasive chart left out of the LN-oriented picks. Or at least picks that have some difficult LN elements in them. But regardless, the players are ready. We're into the 6th map of this best of 9. Early opportunities scuppered by both players, breakpoints being exchanged back and forth. And Brazil finding a very early miss. Could potentially have been a note lock on those triplets. But regardless, that's an opening that D3kuu will take very kindly. As D3kuu trades the miss back on these quick 1-8 doublets. That's going to be the name of the game. Can you hang on through these more technical sections? It does give Brazil an opening once again as D3kuu finds another couple of misses here. Not very comfortable on these transitions. These, like I said, these technical patterns do get very abrasive to read through. Note lock is very much a thing in one key. You miss those early sections and you can just say goodbye to the rest of it until you transition to the next opening to regain your composure. And as it stands, it is looking similar to Anti-Hero in terms of accuracy discrepancy, 96 to 98. Brazil very comfortably in the lead, now over that 400 combo cap as well. Going to be able to stretch this lead and run with it as well as we make our way into the back half of the chart. And now a bit of a reprise from the introduction. Some triplets into the LNs. And again, the triplets galloping once again. And we're going to see probably the hardest section of this song. There's so many interesting releases. You need to have your hands in check. The first miss is going to go the way of D3kuu, not traded back by Brasil once again. So 5 7-note streams coming down. And Brasil is hanging on. Despite that shaky start at the introduction, they are still managing to FC their way, but the last doublets of the song catch them out, but they have done more than enough to secure this point. Already 6-digit in terms of the lead that they have. A couple of misses for the road here as they take a little bit of a victory lap unbeknownst to them. I think they'll be very surprised at the result screen at the end of the song. A valiant effort from D3kuu, but it is going to be notched up 3-3 now. Very good run overall from both players, and now D3kuu left trying to figure out what their last pick is going to be. I mean, they do have reverse clock on the table. I think they only... But they're going to go for hybrid 3 here. Maybe just not too comfortable on the speed pick. But regardless, they have to commit to what they have chosen. Looks like they are ready. It is a very deceptive chart, very technical overall. Test your ability to listen to the music. Some of these streams do not end on the hand you start with. And being able to navigate through that, basically 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 and 7 note streams, all back to back at differing lengths, and give you fits when you're trying to practice it. So hopefully they can put it together in this one important run. A chance for either player to make it a match point situation. Who is going to seize that opportunity? Oh, and Brasil finds the first miss. That's one of the few streams that actually ends on the same hand you start with. Maybe just overshooting the notes required and missing the LN. Gonna give D3kuu a bit of breathing room to work with as Brasil finds yet another miss. The LN stream not treating them all too well. But this can change in an instant. The good thing for D3kuu is the fact that these LN streams can basically be treated like rice streams. They don't have to really overemphasize the length of time that they're holding down their note. And Brasil misses on the 1-6 transition into the next third of the chart. So despite the accuracies being the same, the fact that D3kuu is holding on to this FC, similar to how it was on Hybrid 2, that's really all they need to do at the moment. Because 17,000 points is not a lot when it's this tight between the two players, and especially when you have the accuracy deficit. You have to hold on. And they find the slider break, but Brasil trades it back. No harm, no foul at the end of the day. This is the only opportunity, really, that Brasil would have had to claw back some of this lead. And as I say that, actually starting to shrink it just a little bit. It was 17,000 points, now 10,000 as we make our way into the last couple of streams. And D3kuu finds another slider break. That's a chain miss, and they're starting to column block here at the end. Falling apart meters before the finish line, and Brasil is going to take another breakpoint in this match and make it a match point situation. It is now 4-3 with Brasil up to pick next, and I imagine there is not a world where they willingly go into the speed pick. I think it is going to be LN2 for them to try and close this out. So now we wait for what could potentially, well, what is going to be Brazil's last pick. Because either they win this match outright or we go to that tiebreaker. Brazil asking what's left on the table. It is LN2 and the speed pick. So faster or reverse clock. Again, to try and close this out. And they're gonna go for the speed pick. It's going to be reverse clock. I'm not too sure about this pick. But that being said, Brazil is inhumanly good at speed style picks. Often double timing a lot of slower picks. So they should have experience handling some of these 1/8 bursts. That being said, D3kuu has the ratio on these rice picks. There aren't too many LNs to try and trip him up. So this might be a battle of combo versus ratio. On the surface, it doesn't look like a very hard pick, but being able to navigate some of those quick 1/8s can get very tricky. So once again, one of two scenarios happens here. Either the match ends outright or we go to that tiebreaker. And as we start things off here, first couple of 1/8 bursts start to come through, just 3 notes. Not the worst in the world. But then they start to appear more and more gradually and start to work their way into some of the bursts you're reading through. There's a quick 7-note one, and D3kuu finds the first miss. It's very easy to note lock if you're not used to quick alternating patterns. And like I was saying, Brazil is very good at these style of charts. It's probably why D3kuu didn't go for it, but Brazil finds a chain miss and hands the lead back over to D3kuu, who does not take advantage, finds a break right afterwards, but they have the accuracy advantage. That was a massive strain that Brazil missed on. And it just tanked their accuracy to the tune of about a 2% lead now for D3kuu to work with. And 13,000 points, that can evaporate in an instant. We've already seen leads like that vanish in this match alone. And as things start to calm down, there's an 1/8 of the chart left to go. D3kuu needs to hang on, but they find the chain miss again. But Brazil trades it back. Oh my goodness, there's not a lot of time left. It is 20,000 points in favor of D3kuu for the moment. They cannot afford to break on any of these 1/8 bursts. Oh, but Brazil finds the chain miss at the end. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the tiebreaker. It is wild to think that these two traded breakpoints on maps I don't think either of them really thought they had any chance winning. But these two are inseparable. And D3kuu knows they had a chance to avoid this. That stream map on Angel Dust, they found the miss towards the end that gave Brazil that first breakpoint. That being said, Brazil going for the SV pick right after. So opportunities missed for both these players to close it out. It did not have to get to the tiebreaker here. But here we are. The hardest map in this pool by a long shot. This is a very technical chart. This is what is going to be the norm as we make our way into the middle to late game of this tournament. Maybe the length isn't as bad, but the elements that you're finding here, these quick shifts in these LNs into these rice bursts, are not to be trifled with. These are very hard to read through and make it through unscathed, and Brazil finds the first miss of the tiebreaker. That being said, the accuracy relatively the same, 97s for both. I imagine during the right section is going to be when Deku starts to build up in terms of accuracy. And then, conversely, Brasil is going to build up on these LN streams as they both trade on the bursts. These doublets don't catch anybody out, but on the transition out of it, Deku finds the miss, and they're trading back and forth once again. It is Brasil's turn to take the lead because of the fact that they're keeping these misses a lot cleaner. They're missing at the ends of these sections instead of at the beginnings. And as I say that, they find a messy transition going into the end of the first quarter, and now we're playing tug of war with this leaderboard. Both of them lingering in this 96% range. Deku finding another miss. Probably not going to be the last one before the end of this map. As they start trading back and forth once again, it's just a matter of who can avoid the column lock through the important sections. And then the snap changes, the mood changes. We go from the 1/4, 1/8 stuff to the 1/3, 1/6. Can you handle the swing through the second quarter? Brasil building up their accuracy, 2%. The advantage that they have over Deku, some breathing room, potentially. As Deku finds another couple of misses, the mood changes once again back into the 1/4. The 1/8 burst come out once more. And Brasil is now over that 400 combo cap. They're going to be able to stretch this lead now farther than they could have earlier because of the fact that they're hanging out to combo, and you can see it building in favor of the red side, able to handle through those bursts. As I said, they finally find a miss, but Deku is taking massive amounts of damage, falling down into the A rank momentarily. That being said, Brasil is not out of the woods just yet. There are some nasty transitions. These gallops, these 3 notes. Misjudging the ending points of all of these streams is so common. Especially because of the fact you're going from those 1/4s into the 1/8s, and both of them are having a torrid time at the moment as we're going into the back half of the chart now. Brasil still hanging out to the lead, 55,000 points to their name, still holding on to the S rank as well. Deku falling down 92% for them. Had a miserable time through that last section. And still we continue on. Some very late hits from Brasil. Able to hang on, but they're starting to fall here. Deku's starting to climb back up, 93 now. Closing this deficit ever so slightly, but it's still 40,000 points in favor of Brasil. But as I say that, again, the column locks are so easy to fall into if you've missed them at the start of the streams. And now both of them are flirting with this A rank at the moment. Last quarter of the chart left to go. The mood changes once again. It just flies off the handle here now. As those 1/8 bursts, who can handle them as they come through? Because the streams afterwards are so important. What were late hits are now turning into early hits. And now the deficit has shrunk. It was 50,000 points. It is now 10,000 as we make our way down to the wire. An 1/8 of the chart still left to go. Brasil finding a multitude of misses, not answered back by Deku, but finally answered back. A calmer section for both players to catch their breath a little bit before hitting this outro. 3-note gallops into the bursts. And it's now 8,000 points between the two players. They're even in terms of accuracy, 3/10 between them. It was at its worst 5% between the two of them. And it is 11,000 points. Deku doing everything in their power to try and claw this back. They need to hold on to the combo through this last section as Brasil finds the miss, but is traded back immediately. Tempo starts to pick up once again. We're seeing Brasil begin to overstream a little bit, trying to hang on as best as they can. Deku starting to keep it a little bit even, starting to hit early as well though. As we make our way through the ending, can you handle these 1/8s at the very end? And it is going to be Brasil punching their ticket into the winners quarterfinals by a score of 5-4, and what was an electrifying tiebreaker. What was a 50,000 point lead shrunk to about 8,000, giving Deku the tiniest bit of a chance to get back into it. but ultimately it was not enough. And they fall into the loser's bracket. What a match. And what a way to kick off the Sunday block of matches. We're officially halfway done with the weekend. And it looks like we're going to take a bit of a break. Once again, congratulations to Brazil. Commiserations to D3kuu. Not out of it just yet, like I said. Just going to need to make the run through the loser's bracket. And oh boy, I fear anybody going up against them, especially if they're not good at LN. And SV. Do not underestimate this player on SV. But with that being said, we're going to take a bit of a break for the matches here. We'll be back at 5 UTC. Going to bring you guys the Meme Thief going up against Delta 386. And that is a loser's bracket match. Do not want to miss it. A lot on the line for those players. And then after that, we'll have Forest Master taking on Blobby 3000 before we take yet another break. But until then, we'll catch you guys later.